Men of Reddit, what can you acknowledge is harder for women? Not for all women, but men take a lot of time to get ready because they feel it's required. Most men brush hair out of the shower and that's it. Traveling alone. Takes some balls to travel alone as a girl, especially in not so developed countries. Women need to be careful and look out for things that we men almost never take even in consideration. That whole birth thing looks like a really awful experience. But in all seriousness, it blows my mind that pretty much every girl I know has had some kind of experience with sexual assault. And even more depressing is how many were straight up raped. Pretty much every girl I know has had some kind of experience with sexual assault. And even more depressing is how many were straight up raped. Same. That includes my wife, sister and daughter. And those are just the ones who have confided in me. The risk of dying when having children. Yes, I know men can't have children, but hear me out. I work in a maternity theater and see hundreds of births every year. It amazes me the amount of crap and pain and risk that women have to go through to have kids. Seriously, my respect for women has no bounds. I see what they go through during childbirth and I think I could never do that. By the time they get to the emergency theater, they've usually already been struggling to progress for various reasons for hours. They arrive tired, scared, upset, worried, bleeding, in extreme pain and feeling a million emotions in between. Add into that things can take a turn for the worse very quickly, and it is quite scary for the theater staff as well. Ladies of Reddit, just know, if you come into the theater when I'm on duty, I got your back. I don't think us men appreciate this quite as much as we should do. You're amazing. Just wanted you to know. Childbirth for me was a traumatic experience both times. One positive that came out was my nurses. They were my saviors and I will never forget them. My mother told me how my birth went down. She hadn't dilated enough for me to actually get out all the way, so the doctors suggested breaking my shoulder to allow me through. Upon hearing that, my mother snared at the doctor who suggested this and said, "You don't touch my son. Cut me open down there if need be, but you don't touch my son." And they sliced her open down there. And you know what the most fricked up thing was? She told me she couldn't even feel them cutting her because she was already in so much pain. And this was her 4th time giving birth. That's when I realized that mothers are just inherently badass in that regard. Man, your mom is steel. That hurt to read. Creepy people following you. My girlfriend walked home from work sometimes. It wasn't far and it was in broad daylight. This guy drove by and asked to give her a ride. She declined, said she was almost home. When she got home, she told me about it and how he kept driving up and down the street looking at her afterwards. He followed her into the apartment complex and parked his car to watch her go into the apartment. I was obviously upset. I went out with her so she could point him out, but he had left. It was weird. I told her to call me right away if she sees him anywhere near here. UTIs. My wife will occasionally get a UTI after sex and has to suffer the discomfort and the irritation of trying to get a GP appointment whilst convincing the witch of a GP receptionist that you want an appointment today. It does say on the NHS website that if you're prone to UTIs you can get a backup prescription so you can keep antibiotics on hand. It's definitely worth asking your GP about. Pressure to be a perfect parent. My partner would get approached by strangers at grocery stores and parking lots and criticized for random stuff she was letting out them to get away with it. When I was public with our child, it was pretty much a look at the good dad for just being. The wicked stepmom trope pretty much reinforces how the expectations are set at a huge bar for women, while deadbeat dads make it a shrugging "oh well, that sucks but what are you gonna do" bar for men. Large boobs seem like a curse to me. I wouldn't want to own them if I were a girl, but they sure look cool. They can cause back problems and just look unwieldy, and the only upside of them making you more attractive to many people is also a major downside when it comes to creeps and wanted attention. In general, they get sexualized more explicitly than men, with more of their value being tied to appearance than men deal with. Both can be insecure with their bodies, but society definitely puts more pressure on women. Sad that several of the replies to this comment have to worry about getting creepy DMs just for responding to a thread about their common experience. Men don't have to deal with that. Periods. I have a friend who has irregular periods caused by a hormonal thing and I can't even think of dealing with that. I can't even think of dealing with regular periods. Just the thought of blood coming from down there, accompanied with severe pains and tiredness, it just makes me. I can't even describe it. Being a woman is so dang hard. Training. When I began in the military, everyone including all the girls were in far better physical condition than I was. 2 months in I was bringing in a better performance than all but one girl. The difference in muscle growth, etc. is simply at a level where women are never able to keep up with men who put even half the effort into them. This is probably the worst thing about being a woman for me. I'll never have the same physical potential as a man. My body was not designed for the strength and speed I want. Public restrooms always seem have more of a line than men's rooms. Plus, you'll get to sit down on every nasty public toilet you have to use. That sucks. This one time at a punk show, I asked where the restroom was. The gentleman pointed to the alleyway outside the venue. I thought gross, but punk show, can't exactly complain. So, I release the kraken and make a pee. When this punk girl strolls up next to me, gives me a sup nod, whips out a plastic penis contraption, and puts my measly little stream to shame. I learned 2 things. Women drew the short straw on restrooms, and punk girls are a different breed. This summer I drove cross country to visit my family. We didn't want to have to stop in restrooms, so we thought it would be better to stop on the side of the road. I bought a shoey to use, and I have to say they are harder to use than it looks. The constant talking down to and the constant looking down upon. I've seen this in all areas of my life, but it became prominent when I was a technical trainer at a large web hosting company. I had a handful of incredibly brilliant women techs that were berated, insulted and mansplained to on an hourly basis by customers either via phone or chat. I mentioned this to the director of our department, who didn't seem to believe me. Unbeknownst to him, I allowed several of the women techs to change their names in our chat program to more male sounding names. Nothing else about their approach changed, but the results were astonishing. Within the span of the first week, all of their NPS scores skyrocketed. A month into it, several were nominated for Employee of the Month awards. My manager asked me how we were able to turn things around, and I confessed that I'll let them change their names. I graphed several KPIs to show that nothing else about what they were doing had changed. I would listen to calls where men who would fall just short of saying they didn't believe a woman could know such technical things, only to be transferred to a male tech who provided the exact same information. Only then was it accepted and acknowledged as believable. My hat's off to all women, but a special shout out to women in tech. The amount of bulls I've seen you all have to deal with is astounding and embarrassing. Birth control. My girlfriend is on an implant and it makes her period hella irregular, and so she can bleed intermittently with no warning, so she'll just go to the toilet one day and be bleeding. No prediction of when it will happen. Just, hey, you're bleeding now. How long for? Wouldn't you like to know? Just so we don't have kids we're not ready for. I'm happy to wear a condom, but it's not as safe as using something like the implant or an IUD in terms of family planning. She had to get that crap inserted into her arm with general anesthetic like a bad butt, and one type of birth control doesn't work for everyone. I've heard my friends talking about how they have to take the pill at the same time every day. I can't even remember to have breakfast most days. I've heard you can get injections that last 3 months and can mess with your mood even on antidepressants. And some women I know will be on birth control because their boyfriend wants it raw. The lengths they go through is ridiculous. Getting catcalled. Specifically, I'm a guy that got catcalled a lot in high school and college. I ran distance in tiny short shorts and that's it, and got everything from whistles to honks, girls blowing kisses to guys yelling fire egg out of their car windows, to gay guys slapping my butt or complimenting me. I took it in stride, none if it ever bothered me, and that kind of colored my opinion of catcalling. Not that I approved of it, but that it wasn't that big a deal. Then I had a girlfriend in college, and she got catcalled while I was walking her home at night. It was a distinctly different experience. Turns out I never once felt threatened by my catcallers, but hers were definitely scary and threatening. It was a completely different experience, and really crappy and frightening. It's really scary cause I know every man I meet is stronger than me. If one decides to grab me or get violent, I have little way of defending myself. First of all, periods. Hats off to you all for handling them. Next, being forced to be aware of your surroundings anywhere you go, like you always have a fear of a bad encounter, and finally, not being acknowledged while being out with a man. Many times I went to restaurants or shopping with someone. Everyone always comes up to me instead of my date. One time during shopping for PC parts, I had to state that she wants to buy something, not I, after many times of telling the salesman to ask her. Haha, it's happened to me a few times that I go into a shop with a male friend, I buy things for us. I hand over my money to pay and the shop assistant gives my change to the dude I'm paying for. Nice. I'm a guy and I was working at an ice cream and candy shop, and this older man comes in and orders some popcorn. As I'm scooping it into the container, he looks at me and says, "Oh yeah, just pack it in." I like it when they pack it in real tight, in an obviously sexual way. It made me uncomfortable and I bring it up talking to my co-workers, and one of the girls who was much younger says, "Yeah, welcome to pretty much every day of my life." I, male, have spent a lot of my life working in hotels, and learned very quickly that women aren't exaggerating about the crap guys will say to a total stranger. Even with me standing there listening to them try to hit on co-workers, there were people who had zero shame, filter, or sense of human decency. There are some real freaking creeps out there. Dang, so many good ones have been said already. A relatively minor thing that I haven't seen yet is hair. Body hair of any kind is often something women are expected to minimize, remove completely. Also, long hair is a beat to take care of and manage, as I've come to realize by letting my hair grow past my shoulders during the pandemic. Honestly, as a woman, I wish I didn't have to shave. I know I have a choice not to, but the social repercussions prevent me from making that choice. I don't want to spend an hour a week meticulously removing all of my body hair. I wish I had the courage to stop. This is a refreshing question for Reddit. Being taken seriously is still a big one. Some women take their partners to places like mechanics just so they don't try to screw them over. Ugh, yes. My husband doesn't even know how to drive, but I bring him with me to the mechanic because otherwise I get nothing but patronizingly delivered minimal information and inflated prices. It drives me freaking nuts. Have you ever seen that a very high percentage of women suffer some type of harassment, like in the high 90%s? Well, I never realized, but it's absolutely true and I hate how they have to deal with it. Another sad part about this is sometimes we're conditioned to ignore sexual harassment and taught to be flattered by it or that we brought it on ourselves. Psychologically, admitting you've been harassed takes a toll on you and makes you feel powerless and vulnerable all over again. I'm glad both men and women are waking up to the issue. Going to the bar. As a person who doesn't drink, but has friends who do, it's not safe for them whatsoever here. You hear all kinds of stories, which is terrifying. Was drugged in a bar when I was around 19. I hadn't been drinking that night due to getting over a tummy bug. Friends therefore thought it was odd when I staggered past them with a strange man propping me up and noped me out of there. If it had been a normal night and I had been drinking, I would have been taken out of the club with no pushback and God knows after that. I guess being accepted or respected in a job that is mostly associated with men. Like, I'm gonna act as prime example. If I call a plumber, I, for whatever reason, expect a man to come. And I'd be pretty surprised if a woman showed up. Not that I want a man to come. It's just that in my head plumbers are male. I have no idea where this idea comes from. And it actually seriously bothers me that it is like this. I guess there are a lot of people with this issue out there, and I guess the following does not apply to me. A few of those people might be concerned that she might not do as good of a job as he would. Finding clothes with pockets. I've only recently been made aware that women's trousers, pants, don't usually come with pockets that are actually deep enough to keep anything in there. Fashion is weird. Dude, frick companies who still refuse to make women's clothing with pockets that aren't literally 2x plus the price of other clothes. They're trying to keep purses a thing. It's dumb. Give women pockets. Pretty girls getting sent creepy DMs. My sister just turned 13 years old and is a good looking girl. Countless times has she showed me messages on Snapchat between her and some dude's 4-inch penis. Disgusting. My friend used to have an image of a penis saved so she could send a dong in return. That usually creeped them out. Alternatively, She sometimes would send a family member a notice that their son, brother, nephew, grandson was sending out pictures of his penis. As a man, I thought it must be great to be able to have sex with so many people. I thought it was good that a woman could count on a one-night stand at the bar. As I got older, I realized that women also have to walk through a world where a lot of men want to frick them and many men don't care how they get there. Lying, getting women drunk or drugging them, or flat out rape men they may know, or complete strangers, or even close relatives. That must be far harder than having to impress a woman to have consensual sex. There's also the fact that the random one-night stand is likely uninterested in getting you off. Better to just masturbate with a sex toy, because there's a guarantee of pleasure with no risk of harm from a stranger. Feeling safe in general, whether it be outside after asserting your parties, going to dates with someone new, etc, etc. From the stories I hear from friends and acquaintances, it's pretty scary sometimes. Also less impactful, but gaming. When a girl is gaming, it's always dudes telling her that she's a pick-me girl, that she only plays Minecraft, that she doesn't know crap, etc, etc. Just them being disrespectful and annoying shoots. As a guy, this is one of my pet peeves, the fact that some guys out there just can't keep their mouth shut, or have the decency to leave women, or others, alone. Particularly in gaming, it seems to discourage women from getting involved, or opening their mouth in game. I wouldn't even dare introduce my partner to any game without a solid group of friends that she could stick with. Holy crap, where do I start? 1. Childbirth. Everything I see or hear about it is just unpleasant and painful. 2. The body clock and pressure to have children, especially in your 30s. 3. Sexism and bias in the workplace. Yep, it's still there in many forms, and it really disappoints me that it is. 4. Online communities and the comments messages. What the frick, guys. 5. Being heard. How often do you see or hear women being talked over? So much more. I feel so much for the women in my life, my wife, my mum, my friends, and what they have to deal with. If I have a daughter, I'll be scared for what she'll face. Not answering the question, I'm woman. I just want to thank the person who made this question and everyone who answered. This is such a healthy discussion, and given the influx of incel activity across Reddit lately, it gives me hope to see Redditors taking about this. Rock on y'all. Being taken seriously in certain male-dominated fields. IT, especially programming. Even if they know their crap, there is still a sexist stigma of dismissing them as not knowing what they are doing, not as good as male counterparts. I find it frustrating. I welcome more women in the programming field. Getting immediate respect. I know this is so much easier for men. I feel sorry for women who have to go through this, and I do give them the respect they deserve. Yes, this is so infuriating. I'm in the military, and I bust my butt and have earned my place and my rank. And yet many of my male peers often are quick to challenge me in situations where it's completely unnecessary. Yet, I would never dare mention that gender comes into play, or I'll be labeled as an emotional feminist. Occupying space for no apparent reason became much easier. That's what I, M61, remember reading from a woman journalist who disguised herself as a man for day. She noted that the ability to simply stand or sit any place you like is a privilege men take for granted. That really stayed with me, and yes, I have to agree that's true. I constantly tell my fellow females to not apologize for occupying space. It's absolutely mind-boggling how many sorries can come out of a woman's mouth in a day. Being taken seriously in successful positions. Being a woman on a board must be filling a diversity quota. First women to do X. Who cares, a man did it ages ago. And I may be wrong, but I am pretty sure I read somewhere that women score less in trust in political polls because to get there they must have been sneaky or a man-eater or some crap. All bulls. There's an outstanding female manager up at the factory I work in. She's been in that position for many years. Because she's a woman, she doesn't get a whole lot of respect, despite being a no-balls personality type. Despite her toughness, she also has far more empathy than her average Machiavellian male counterpart. Guys, I just want to say, as a female, reading this made me cry. Thank you for acknowledging this crap, especially the general lack of safety we feel. It's too real. It gives me so much hope. Posts like this are so healthy. People need to acknowledge the interests and issues of people who are different from them. Alliances happen when different people display that they don't just care about themselves and their own separate problems. Clothing appearance choices. I can literally wear anything I want, messy hair, unshaven, whatever, and really not get much in the way of negative comments. Usually the worst I'll get is rough day. My daughter is old enough to start making her own decisions, and I have a deal where, as long as she keeps her grades up, I'll let her dress style as she wants. Caveat is she does have to tell me before anything drastic, i.e. shave head, knee and hair. More as a check that I'm prepared for the school administration calling me about it. She currently has short bob undercut shaved, usually just jumps out of bed and goes fire engine red, prefers hoodies which due to her height she swims in anything that doesn't become a crop top. She's got my jeans, at least a foot taller than her classmates, pretty much olive oil build. Sigh, I wish I still had that type of metabolism. Almost never wears any type of makeup. The comments she gets about she'd look prettier with long hair if she just cared about her appearance, or the boys might like her more if she didn't wear bulky hoodies, just makes me so sad. I feel a lot of these answers are quite superficial. I'll give one that I believe is really hard. Women trying to start a career at a time when they are usually starting a family, ages 25 to 35. My fiancée and I are reaching the age where having children will have its health complications, but at the same time she is trying to change her career path. So she will either have to sacrifice career or having a family. Aging. Women often are attracted to older men, but men are rarely attracted to older women. Women over a certain age become almost invisible, or at least it feels that way as someone over 40. At work, the women on my team struggle with calming and commanding the attention of a room when things get heated. What works for me simply doesn't work for them. I lower my voice in pitch and speak with as soothing of a baritone as I can manage to somewhat reasonable effect. The lower, slower and more quietly I speak, the more people tend to chill. I felt physical pain when one of my mentees tried that trick. People just ignore and talk over her. It's bulls. We're both technical experts and of the same age. Honestly, just them going outside of their house. I've heard and seen what can happen to them in the most unexpected times. Although I've experienced some of these myself as a guy, it doesn't come close to the level it happens to women. And as much as I would like to help and support women when I can, when I'm out and about, I understand that I can't because of the fact I'm a man and I may seem intimidating to them. Which just breaks my heart more knowing they're that scared sometimes. BTW, what I meant by that last sentence is like offering to walk someone home after drinks, or something like that. You just want to help but realize it must be scary for them not knowing what might happen. And staying at home also isn't the best solution, because your boyfriend, roommate, uncle, someone you know could harass or attack you where you're supposed to feel safe. Most statistics of rape, violence etc show that it's more likely to be someone you know and at a common place. Heartbreaking. Thanks for seeing the problem though. I haven't read this whole thread, but just like going to bars to have a fun time. There's that old Dane Cook joke about how lame it is that girls just want to dance. I'm a guy, and I used to love going to gay bars just to dance because they had the best music and energy. But every time I set foot in the club I had this dread that I would be hit on by someone I'm not attracted to. I'm straight. One of these times I went out dancing. I had a flash of realization that this is exactly how every woman must feel every time they go to any bar. Empathy will really mess you up, man. Empathy is seeing the world for how it is for another person and choosing not to look away. The tiny freaking pockets on women's clothes. It pisses me off. And if I was a girl, I'd buy men's pants just for the pocket size alone. There are so many excellent answers, but I would go with the benign one. Fashion. It's one of those three choice. Pick two problems. Practical, comfortable, feminine. As a male, I get the same three choices. Practical, comfortable, masculine, and yet I can easily pick all three. To be taken seriously in a male-dominated environment. To be able to have controversial opinions without backlash. To say they don't want children. All of these are much easier for us men than for women. And this is freaking sad. Every time I say I don't want children, I get relentlessly attacked on it. Like, Dudes, it's my life and I don't want kids in it. I don't need to be able to write a book on why. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.